Hey there, everyone. This is Samuel Johnson, and welcome back to the Lyoko Retrospectives. Today we're going to be looking at episode 27 of Lyoko / the first episode of Season 2, New Order. Now, in terms of continuity, this episode is supposed to have taken place at least a month after the Season 1 finale. In this case, in the time between the end of last season and this season, pretty much Jeremy's kind of been tinkering around in Lyoko, pretty much adding some new features here and there. One of the features, and one with a couple that we see in this episode. The first being he's given the groups vehicles now. In this case, Odd has a hoverboard. Yumi and Aelita share, I guess I can easily say, a hover cycle, while Ulrich has kind of a one wheeler. It's kind of a one wheeler, like a one wheeler. Hold on a sec. Sorry about that. So I thought there was someone there. Anyway, pretty much they all have new vehicles, and I know they have official names, but I only heard like two of them, and it's going to take a while before they actually stick in my mind. So apologies if I don't remember them right off the bat. And on top of that, but anyway, on top of also programming in these vehicles to Lyoko, Jeremy's also created a new program, it's a new alert system, so to speak. This one pretty much will alert the group whenever a tower has been activated, pretty much eliminating the need for Aelita to stay in Lyoko. In other words, she can now live in the real world. While they're still dealing with the virus that Xana infected with her at the end of last season. They don't have to worry about her being stuck in Lyoko, and so now she can just walk around, and actually have a life. And actually, something I kind of like is that in the real world she's actually kind of adopted a new outfit, kind of wearing a nice pink little hoodie with two palms at the end of her drawstring. It's cute. I love it. It's kind of cute. I like it. However, it turns out in the spanning month in that month, Xana's also gotten stronger, as while the group is testing out these vehicles in Lyoko, they're attacked by a new breed of monster, something that Odd calls tarantulas. Pretty much these weird spindly little. Hold on a sec. Sorry about that, dog. Anyway, the creatures are called tarantulas. These weird spindly little creatures that can shoot lasers out of their legs. Their heads kind of look like skulls, and they're a lot tougher than your average monster, as pretty much one tarantula pretty much devirtualizes the entire group. As such, the group realizes they need to be weary about these things. But pretty much enough about that. We have our standard plot to get to the episode. As with Aelita living in the real world, the group has managed to get her set up at Caddick, having her get her own room, giving her a cover story to say that she's actually Odd's cousin, pretty much giving her a life now. And pretty much she ends up hitting it off pretty well with everyone at the school, as she's still befriending, as she manages to understand how things work. She and Jeremy are still get along just fine, and even in this episode, they're going on a kind of field trip to a nearby forest so they can draw the local fauna, and pretty much present it as a class project. Although when all the other classes are walking to the woods, Sissy and her group decide to just go to the mall. However, one other thing to note about this episode is that while the groups are being paired off, Ulrich is kind of trying to rack up the nerve to talk to Yumi about their relationship, as he once more kind of needs that reassurance. But when he gets the chance to finally talk to her, it turns out that she's already paired with someone else. A new kid in Caddick named William, who I'm going to mention just right now. I'm going to talk about him briefly. I'm only mentioning him right now because while he doesn't really do much with the episode, he's in the episode for the moment. He's just kind of the token. He's just kind of meant to be a token antagonistic force, so to speak. Just pretty much something to pretty much drive a slight wedge between Ulrich and Yumi. He becomes important later. Like unlike other side characters that we've seen in the show beyond Sissy, Millie, Tamia, and Nicholas and Herb, or Jim. Pretty much, he becomes a mainstay. He doesn't come on for one episode and then is just forgotten in the later episode, and then just forgotten in the next episode. In this case, William is actually important. And again, while in the context of this episode, this episode is mostly just slight setup for his character, as all we know is that apparently he got kicked out of his last school because he put up some drawings all around the school, but it's obvious that he does seem to be crushing on Yumi a little bit, as while they're on the field trip, he does some cheesy pickup lines he tries doing some cheesy pickup lines. It's not so horrible that it's cringe inducing, but it's obvious enough that you can tell that he kind of has a slight thing for her. And pretty much when Ulrich sees that them together, it does kind of get to him, to the point where when they all go to the forest to try and draw the local fauna, Ulrich is just keeping his eye. Ulrich is just, instead of doing the class assignment, is actually just keeping his eye on Yumi and William. However, at the same time, while Jeremy and Aelita are just kind of doing their class project and enjoying themselves, Jeremy realizes he forgot his laptop back at his room, and Aelita just tells him, "Oh, go ahead. We've already drawn enough. I'm sure we're going to get a passing grade." As such, he runs back and leaves Aelita behind in the woods. However, while she's in the woods, she starts kind of freaking out as she gets a little scared by everything. And while Jeremy tried assuring her that there's no monsters in the woods, she kind of starts having her little freak out as she thinks that there's something watching her, or at the very least. And at that point, however, and of course she ends up running away. However, as she runs away, she eventually comes across this strange house. I think it's called the Heritage. I'll have to get back to you on the name. I didn't write it down, but it's something that starts with an H. Pretty much, it's this old abandoned house. It's pretty much just this old abandoned house, and when Aelita sees it, she starts having strange visions associated with it. Like, she seems to remember the house when it's pristine and new, about roaming around there. Even in the woods, when she thought something was stalking her, she seemed to think she saw a brief image of a wolf. So when she goes into the house, and as she ventures through, she starts having she starts seeing more visions as she has visions of a man in glasses and with a beard in this living room playing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star on the piano, and it's just kind of weirding her out, and it's just starting to give her headaches. But eventually that all is interrupted, but eventually the visions are stopped, and when she comes back to reality, she finds that she is in fact not alone in the house, as we see Xana's little black smoke ooze whatever attack her. In the meantime, when Jeremy gets back to his room and finds his laptop, the alert's going off until letting him know that a tower has been activated. As such, he contacts Odd and Ulrich, and Ulrich and Yumi, and tells them to go and get Aelita. And they eventually do. And eventually, they eventually do manage to track her down to the house. However, when they go inside, they find that the whole place has just kind of been rigged by Xana and pretty much just turned into Xana's own little haunted house, as things are being flung at them, knives, weapons, furniture, whatever, but it seems to be directing them towards it, but pretty much it seems to be hurting them towards the basement. And when they get in there, they see Aelita unconscious in a room. They go to investigate. They go to wake her up, but when she's woken up, Aelita says, "No, this is the trap. This is what Xana wanted." And yeah, pretty much Xana tries to slam the door on them, but Odd manages to stop it and to get in the way of it, so that Aelita can get out. Although he can't hold it long enough and manage to shut, but not before Odd manages to jump out, pretty much just trapping Ulrich and Yumi in the room. And it turns out, yeah, the room's kind of a boiler room or a sauna, one of the two. Either way, Xana's turning up the heat in there and is trying to boil them alive. As such, Odd and Aelita realize they have to deactivate the tower, so they manage to get out of the house. And something I forgot to mention, Xana locked all the doors and windows, and they only managed to get out because Xana tried to crush Odd with something, and he got out of the way. And well, it slammed into a door. But once Odd and Aelita step out of the house, Aelita has more revisions and finds that the house has a strange secret door, and in her visions, she sees an image of herself and the man walking into the door and going into the sewers. As such, her and Odd managed to take that and go into. Her and Odd managed to take that and go into the sewers, where they managed to get to the factory, wherein we once more go back into the typical Lyoko formula, as they managed to virtualize into Lyoko, and ultimately with the added help of their vehicles, they managed to find the activated tower, except this time guarded by two tarantulas. they are able to take one of them out by being clever, as Alita leads one away and Odd takes it out, but pretty much just the rest is standard. It's just kind of standard stuff as Odd distracts the other one, while Alita just makes a mad dash to the tower, and once more we get the same thing where we see her deactivating the tower and time is reset, and we see. And back in the real world, we see Ulrich and Yumi just kind of getting worse and worse as the room gets heated up until they eventually pass out, but ultimately being saved at just the right time, at just the right moment. As such, the episode ends with the field trip now being over, and pretty much just Sissy and Nicholas and Herb each getting a zero on their project. But Jeremy also decided. Jeremy confirms that he did go back to the house and it's Xana free, but Alita's kind of wondering why she had visions of the place. Why did she go there that she started seeing these things? And as such, it kind of leaves it open about what's going to happen with that one. I like that. As such, the episode officially ends when Jeremy hands Alita a gift, telling her that now they'll be able to it'll make fighting Xana much easier. And it turns out the gift is Alita's own cell phone, which is nice. It's a cute gift, and it's a nice, cute little gift, and it also allows for them to get in contact with her when the need arises. So, yeah, I like that. It's cute. So, overall, what do I think of this not two-parter. What do I think of this first episode of the second season? I think it's nice. For the most part, it still follows the formula well. It still follows the standard Lyoko formula. Xana activates a tower, they got deactivated, and so forth. And again, the whole idea of a haunted house is nice. But I think what makes it better is just kind of the stuff surrounding it. This episode tries paying more attention to the A plot in this case, having it be more interspersed. For starters, one of the things that I like is that we've seen that Jeremy is trying to up their game in Lyoko and going up against Xana, creating vehicles for the group to allow them easier travel around Lyoko. Creating a system to try and deactivate towers so that Alita doesn't have to be there anymore. And as the season goes on, he does start instituting more upgrades, which ultimately improves the character's arsenal. But with that in mind, we also see that another thing I like is that we see the villain getting stronger as well. In this case, we see a brand new breed of monster that we haven't seen before, and we ultimately establish that this guy is a much tougher challenge than other monsters. As while they still have to hit the Xana icon on its head to kill it, ultimately it's still a much tougher battle as this one's a little more sleeker, so it's a little harder to hit, and its attacks pack more of a punch. Not helped by the fact that their health is actually larger as well. Though again, that doesn't really seem to matter when again their weakness is the Xana icon. So, yeah, whatever. On top of that, one other thing I like about this episode is that it's actually setting up for future storylines. While season 1 definitely had the overarching story with Jeremy trying to find a way to devirtualize Alita, beyond that, most story stuff usually involved with that was usually just Jeremy tinkering with it in one area and some character interactions between another. We saw again, and that lot of stuff wasn't bad. It's just kind of some things we've seen before. We see in one episode that Jeremy's working on the devirtualization program. He doesn't succeed. He doesn't succeed, but he's still working on it. And I think once or twice it was expanded upon, but otherwise it ended exactly where it began at the beginning of the episode. Not bad, but at the same time, it didn't really do much to expand the plot. It was just kind of Jeremy continuing to struggle with it, and it's ultimately was just kind of the same problem throughout. Again, not bad, but nothing really new, nothing that really needed expanding. We already knew what the situation was. It was just a matter of when it would happen, not a matter of how it would happen. On top of that, but again, it wasn't bad. As one of the things that actually helps in season 1 was that we actually got some legitimate character stuff between characters, like between Yumi and Ulrich, and seeing their will they won't they relationship, as they do obviously care about each other, and seeing them kind of work through all that stuff to try and become an official couple. It's nice, and I like that. Something I like about this episode is that they actually kind of call them out on that. As when Ulrich gets jealous of Yumi and William, Odd actually says, "Well, I thought you guys were a couple already. What's going on?" And Ulrich says, "We're not really. It's just complicated." I like that. It's just kind of addressing them how how their relationship is just kind of all over the place. And again, that's not a bad thing. They're kids, and it makes sense why they'd be confused about this sort of thing. They do obviously care about each other, but they haven't. But it's still they're still trying to figure things out. And again, Ulrich can get jealous. We have seen that throughout the series, that he can be the jealous type, and he is stubborn. So seeing that, so I like that. On top of that, again, another thing I like is that but again, going back to the whole setting, but again, going back to the whole setup, setting up for future plots, we have two in the episode. In this case, one is introducing William, who from the onset looks like he just kind of be the typical wedge between Yumi and Ulrich, just kind of being the cute boy from the that just kind of being the cute boy that got kicked out of another school and is now and seems to have the hots for Yumi. If this were pretty much in the last season, if a character like this showed up, it would be for one episode, and then odds are we wouldn't be seeing them again. However, here, as someone who has knowledge of the future, it's nice actually seeing him be introduced. And again, it's just a simple introduction. We don't know much about him beyond that he got kicked out of his last school, and it opens up and it leaves the door open for future development, as well as setting up how he's kind of works his way in. Pretty much just being that wedge, as he clearly is attracted to Yumi, and odds are this is not going to be his last attempt to try and woo her. At the same time, we also get some more story development for Aelita, as now that she's left Lyoko, we now see her interacting with the real world, and we start getting an idea that maybe she's been here before. As when she goes to the Heritage House, again, I'll get the name right eventually. She goes there, and when she goes there, she starts having visions and flashes of things that were of a house when it was new, of a man there. It's setting up something about Aelita and her connection to this place, and it makes you actually kind of interested to see where they're going to go with it. You want to know more about what's going to happen there, and what Aelita's connection to this place is. And I like that. I like that they set it up. And again, it is clearly something else, as these memories aren't just random, and they are true, and they do seem to have some grounding in fact, as Aelita had a memory of her and the guy in the glasses going down to the sewer. So there's something there. So I like that. And again, it is nice seeing them try to get stronger to get face up against Xana, while also establishing that Xana is also trying to raise the stakes as well with the creation of a new monster. And yeah, spoilers, there's going to be more new monsters this season. We're going to see more beyond the Hornets, the Cankerlites, the Boxes, and the Megatanks. I think those are the four monsters. But again, and there is going to be more stuff that comes up. And oh yeah, another thing I kind of want to mention, the episode. One of the things that I like with season 2. They've actually kind of improved the CGI for Lyoko. Again, I didn't hate it in season 1. I think I mentioned early on how it kind of looked a little stilted. Not awful. It still fit the video game aesthetic fine. But in the second season, I think it improves the animation, the CGI in Lyoko. It still looks like a video game. It's still nice and otherworldly and different, but it actually looks more vibrant. It looks like there's more detail to it. The characters look more expressive in Lyoko, like they can do more. It actually feels like it has more flow to it. It looks better. It's still recognizable as Lyoko. It looks like it's taken a step up slightly in animation, and I like that sort of thing. And I guess another thing is that it also helps that the animation in the real world also seems to be a little bit stepped up. It's like. First you can tell kind of going from season 1 to this, you can tell there was some slight jitters in season 1, but it looks like they actually are kind of smoothing it out more when we get to season 2. And that's nice. I like seeing things kind of getting better as the show goes on. And again, I'm not going to knock against season 1. Every show kind of has trouble getting its first steps in the beginning. And Lyoko definitely had that, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just the first season of any good show is usually not as reflective of the quality as later seasons. So, but yeah, on the whole, yeah. Overall, it's definitely a good episode. It sets up future plot details with the introduction of William and the idea of the kids and Leo. With the introduction of William, the idea of Xana and the kids getting stronger, and and the stuff with Aelita. There's some nice little character stuff there, and some nice little interactions. The animation seems to have improved, And in the end, and at the end of the day, I think it's actually a pretty, and it also helps establish it kind of establish what the new status quo is. So showing Alita's case in it, what January's going to be working on now with the antivirus program, while also setting up what things are going to be new and if things are going to continue changing. So yeah, on the whole, still a good episode. It's a good opener for season 2, and I look forward to seeing more. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I'll see you next week. Take care.